Namaskar Shokulke. My name is Borsha Das and I'm an engineering student from the City of Joy, Kolkata, India.
My name is Davis Onyokuzoro and I'm a Better Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador from Nigeria.
Assalamu alaikum. I am super excited to talk at Microsoft Student Summit this year. My name is Rizel and I'm the Microsoft MVP on Microsoft 365 Development category.
Hi, I am Kunda Chasinda and I stay in Zimbabwe.
Hello everyone, my name is Krishna Rajakonda. I live in Houston, Texas. I wish you all very best and welcome to Student Summit 2023.
My magical moment is when I share new technology with my clients and they get as excited about it as I do.
My magical moment is when I joined Microsoft Tech Club in my high school and saw my peers learning and innovating together.
I am very excited to connect with students in my community, to learn from them and to help them to learn new technologies.
I am part of the Student Summit to inspire young professionals to become community stars.
The knowledge that's provided and the interest that comes from the new technologists that attend is very inspiring to me.
I'm looking forward for this year's Microsoft Student Summit to connect with other students who share the same goals as me.
I'm so excited about the Student Summit and the things that you all are going to learn and the connections that you're going to make.
Together, let's create a positive impact and be a force for good. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Microsoft Reactor Student Summit Conference. We are so excited that you decided to join us today. Throughout this conference, you'll have the opportunity to learn some new skills, network with peers who share your goals and passions, and maybe even find some career mentorship or inspiration. Brenna and I will be your hosts for this exciting event, and we wanted to take a quick second to introduce ourselves. So hi, my name is Hadley. I'm a product manager on the Office AI team here at Microsoft, and I'm calling in from Washington State. Over to you, Brenna.
Hi, I'm Bryn. I use they, she pronouns, and I study computer science and political sciences in Bellingham, Washington State, and I'm our GitHub field expert for the United States. Great. So if you're watching, if you're joining in from a watch party, welcome. Make sure that you're logged in from your own device so that you're able to download all the contents and links and join in from the chat if you have any questions.
Awesome. And before we get started, we want to remind you all of our code of conduct. We want everyone to have a great experience here today. So we ask that you please be respectful, kind, and considerate to others. And please join us in creating a welcoming and safe environment.
So we've heard from all of you over this course of this year that you're excited to hear about networking and technical learning, career advice, and exploring new technology like artificial intelligence. And while we only have 90 minutes today, we're going to touch on all of those things. And you're going to hear from career advice from industry experts and have time to ask them questions at the end of their talks. And equally as important, we're going to help you continue learning after the Student Summit is over. And the Student Summit is not just a moment in time, it's a big part of your entire journey. So the goal of today is to inspire you. We're going to discuss things like application development, developer tools, low code, no code, fusion development, and artificial intelligence and data mining and machine learning. And we're also going to provide you with resources afterwards to help clarify what these next steps are so you can continue learning about these topics, network, and accelerate your career through Reactors and Microsoft Learn.
So let's talk a little bit about Reactor and Microsoft Learn. Reactors are our community space where we welcome you to come and learn and connect. Whether you join us online or in physical spaces, it's a place for industry professionals. Yep, we're talking about you all, to come together and explore industry-leading ideas, exciting Microsoft technology, and open source communities. We offer a diverse mix of hands-on workshops, expert panels, and community events. There's really something for everyone, whether you're looking to start or accelerate your career in technology. Some of the upcoming events include an M365 app development workshop that's happening next Wednesday, and then a series of Launch Your Career events that start Monday, April 3rd, where you can learn more about what it's like to be a game developer, mobile developer, developer advocate, and much more. You can learn more about these events at the link that I'll show you on the next slide. We hope to see you at a Reactor event to share our network and learning opportunities alongside other peers and Microsoft partners and industry experts. Now let's talk a little bit about Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn is a place where you can learn by doing through hands-on training and that are personalized to your needs at your own pace. You can access our Student Summit Cloud Skills Challenges there to learn more about the content we're talking about today. The Cloud Skills Challenges are a fun way to compete against others while continuing your learning with Microsoft. You can choose from different challenges to start and accelerate your career in AI, data, and machine learning application development and developer tools, low-code, no-code development as well. You can earn certificates and badges that showcase your skills. You can also find technical documentation, step-by-step guidance to get the most out of your Microsoft products. And lastly, you can also experiment, try some sample codes, test out new capabilities, again, compete to get those challenges and earn certificates. If anyone else out there is as competitive as I am, you'll love it just as much as I do. And so much more. So here's the link that you can go to learn more.
Cool. So to talk a little more about that link, you can go there to find the different programs like Hadley had mentioned, all access to all of our cloud skills challenges. This is also where you can find Azure for students. So if you want to build off of that and be able to explore more on your own, you can join the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors program, which is super cool. And I think we have a few ambassadors in the chat. So if you're an ambassador, you can totally go and ask them questions. And you can get those certifications like Hadley had mentioned. And this is also where you can find the Student GitHub Developer Pack, which gives you a whole bunch of different access to these tools and the premium version for free as a student.
Awesome. Great. So here's a look at our agenda today, jam-packed. We are so excited. We have a great set of speakers and videos for you today. So we're going to just jump right into it.
Cool. So the first activity we're going to do is a quick kind of get to know you and get to know the other participants in the chat. If you could join on this Menti link and add in the code, I'm going to pass this off to Jasmine to look at the results.
While we're waiting for that screen to pop up, go to menti.com and type in that code. Awesome. You'll see some questions here that ask you a little bit about yourself.
I love the way that even though this is the North America session, we've got people from across the globe.
Heck yes, love that.
And the time difference must be crazy.
Yes, thanks for staying up extra late or waking up extra early for us.
We appreciate it. It's going to be great.
Oh, I love this question. Lots of undergrads. Love to see it.
Awesome. I love the way that also like it's called the Student Summit, but honestly, like we're all learning. Student does not mean that you're in university or a high school. Like you never stop.
So true. I also love that we have a bunch of people here looking to change to a tech career. That's super exciting. Tech careers have so much to offer. You don't have to know how to code to be in a tech career. So we're super excited that you're here. There's so many transferable skills, and we're excited to help you learn and grow.
Awesome. There's so much like information here. So many different legends.
I know the colors are really fun too.
Yeah.
Lots of computer science, data science, IT engineering. Love to see that, but also love that there's a lot of business in the chat as well, or in the call as well. That's great to see.
Yeah, we'd love to see also if you have a degree that's not one of these listed, yeah, let us know.
Yeah, let's see what we got in the chat here. Lots of different people. Computer science, full stack. Love to see it.
Everyone's excited to learn about artificial intelligence.
Hot topic right now.
I know. I'm also a little bit biased too.
Same.
Yeah.
Love it. Lots of love for app development and low code, no code. Love that. I'm excited to learn more about low code, no code. I don't know much about that space, so I'm particularly interested in that one.
And our speaker lineup is great for it too. So excited.
Absolutely.
Oh, I think some of those people that were other on the majors are cybersecurity.
Oh, cool. Love to see that. That's also super important. AI is the future. Yes, very true. Okay.
Awesome.
Looks like the audience is in a similar boat as us, Bren, where not as much knowledge of low code, no code. So that's super exciting. We're going to learn so much.
Super excited to learn about it.
Exactly.
Great.
Alrighty. We'll switch over to some slides now. We're going to jump into our first speaker. We're super excited to kick it off with our first speaker who will be talking about app and dev tools. I know that was one of the hot topics there, so I'm so excited to introduce you to Allie Stehney, who is a software engineer at Microsoft, and I'll hand it off to Allie.
Thank you so much, Hadley and Bren. Hi, everyone. Like I said, I am Allie Stehney. I'm a software engineer here at Microsoft. And today I'm going to take you through my journey in becoming a software engineer and then also what that career looks like for me today. So on the right-hand side of this slide, you can see a picture of me next to the Microsoft sign. And this was a picture I took the first time that I got to visit the Microsoft campus out in Redmond, just outside of Seattle. There was definitely a line for this picture. So there's a whole crowd of people watching me pose like this. But as you can probably tell, I was very excited to be on campus. And so just a little bit about me. Whoops. My slides are accelerating. Before we get too far into it, so like I said, I'm a software engineer, but specifically I work on web applications and more specifically the Student Ambassadors website right here on the right-hand side. So if we do have student ambassadors here today, hi, I'm someone who works behind the scenes on your website. And I am based in Michigan, so Eastern Standard Time. And as you can probably see from these pictures down below, I have two dogs. One is very, very recent ad. I'm no longer allowed to scroll Pet Finder in my free time. But the one on the left is Diesel, and then the one right next to her is Maisie. They're both mini Aussie doodles, but the one in the middle definitely looks a little bit more Aussie. And they typically sit like this around my desk when I'm working. And I have accidentally trained them that when I say thank you, bye on a phone call and hang up from a work meeting, they think that means they get to go outside, which more often than not, they do get to go outside. But I didn't realize I had trained them to do this. That picture right next to them, that third picture there from the left, that is a picture of a treehouse office on the Microsoft campus. This was something so new to me and something I saw on my visit to Redmond and something that I thought was pretty cool. So just wanted to share that with you all. And then a couple pictures down below. This is me and my fiance, and Diesel is in that first picture there, but she definitely didn't want to be. The one picture is us up in the UP of Michigan, which is almost Canada. You could argue it's Canada, but it's not Canada. And then that bottom right is us at the Detroit Red Wings game, a hockey game, last weekend. And as you can probably see, my fiance is wearing a Chicago Blackhawks jersey. So he's from Chicago and he will always root for them. And one theme just kind of throughout my career and throughout this talk today that I have is refactoring. And if you're not familiar with that term, it's a pretty common programming concept where you go back and you improve upon something. So I have this definition here on the slide, and this is what I found when I did a quick search on Bing. But it pretty much means restructuring so as to improve operation without altering the functionality. And pretty much what that means, the TLDR, or the too long don't read, the summary, is that you build something, you may learn something new along the way, and then you come back and you rebuild. So whether that's rewriting code in fewer lines than you wrote before, or just cleaning up the code that was there previously, it's kind of this concept of continuously improving, which I think definitely applies to my career. So to go through my timeline, I took my first programming class in September of 2016. It was a Python class at the University of Michigan. But to take a step back in how I got to this point, that summer before, so May, June, July, August, I had moved to New York City to do an internship. And I was so excited to be in New York City doing my marketing internship. That picture on the top right there is actually me the week that internship started. That was me outside of the dorm that I was living in on NYU's campus for the internship. And this internship was really where I had my first exposure to any sort of code. I started to see some HTML, and I started to hear about SEO, which is search engine optimization. And we were altering the title of a page through the HTML or small things like that to help it come up in a search that a user would do. So I was really excited. I had discovered this whole new world with coding. But at the same time, I was like, wow, I've just discovered this. I was kind of at a crossroads because I came back to school in the fall, so September 2016, and this was my senior year of college. I was planning on graduating in the spring, so I had less than a year. And I had recently just figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I took all of that and I decided, okay, I'm still going to graduate in May of 2017 with my non-technical degree, but if I can land a software engineering internship, I'm going to do it. So I took a couple programming classes my senior year, and I took one class that was actually through the art school at Michigan, and it was a graphic design kind of user interface class, and she taught us how to build a website portfolio. So from scratch, I was able to code a portfolio website, and I used this website along with some of that coding experience from those classes to land a software engineering internship right after I graduated. So it was a little bit weird. A lot of my friends were going off to their first full-time corporate job, big like adult person job, and I was going off to another internship. But for the first time, I was actually doing an internship in software engineering, which I thought was the bee's knees. It was so cool to me. So I finished up that internship, and at the end of those 3 months, I realized this is definitely something I want to do, but I need to know a lot more. So I enrolled in a coding boot camp, and after 3 months, I had finished up that coding boot camp and landed my first job as a software engineer at a startup in downtown Detroit. It was a product-focused startup, so we were working on one web application, and funny enough, it was actually still in the marketing world, but I was on the software engineering side, and it was like the movies. There were unlimited snacks. I was so happy to be there. Fast forward 3 years later, and it was my first day at Microsoft. I could have fallen out of my chair, and I think that emoji expresses it all, but I was very excited to be joining Microsoft. So to look more at how my coding has evolved throughout the years, like I mentioned, I started at that startup in Detroit. And when I was hired in there, I was hired as a front-end developer. So I was living in the land of JavaScript, doing all things React, Redux. We used GraphQL and we used Apollo. I really loved doing the front-end work. But about like 8 months to a year in, I started to lean into this stack and wanting to understand how the API was built. So as a front-end developer, I was interfacing with the API layer a lot, requesting data, showing that data within the user interface, but I was never really building out those endpoints. So I took a step into the API world and we used Ruby on Rails. So at the time I was learning a lot of that, learning how to read data, pull it from the database, which things spiral. And as you can probably see by my next bullet point, once I got a little bit more comfortable with the API layer, I started to want to know more about databases and about SQL. So today I take all of that knowledge and all of that experience that I've had, and I really do love moving across the stack, whether I'm working on the API in .NET or I'm working in React or maybe even writing a little bit of SQL. And so for a lot of my career, I've spent a lot of time learning things I didn't know. And these are just some of the resources that I've used throughout my career and before my career. But I'll never forget taking a Ruby on Rails course on Udemy when I really did want to understand the back end of an application more. I've always leaned on YouTube. A couple months ago, I watched a really great YouTube video on the Playwright testing library. There's some really helpful videos out on that. And then I've leaned a lot too on the job training. So when I graduated from my boot camp, one goal of mine was to land at a startup because I wanted to be in somewhat of a fast-paced environment where I knew I could get my hands on a lot of things and that we'd be deploying a fair amount so that I could learn a lot as I went. Another thing I would do is take computer science classes at the local community college. And then I've also taken some pathways on Microsoft Learn. And last year I was able to get my certification in Azure Fundamentals, which if you're looking to either get into cloud computing or just understand more about it, that was a really great certification. And honestly, the pathway on Microsoft Learn was super helpful. So where does that leave us today? There's definitely a lot of buzz about AI coming out. And these two are two tools that you may have heard about, but they're definitely two tools that I've started to use more on my day-to-day. So GitHub Copilot is one. And I think the best way I can explain it is like a sentence finisher for code. So if you start writing out functions and you tab, it'll finish that function for you. So it's really great at writing a lot of boilerplate code. And by boilerplate code, I mean code that you kind of need to have to set up what you want to do. So if you're writing a React component, you need to import React from the React library, stuff like that. It can handle all of that for you. It's also helpful with getting your unit tests set up or writing some of those. And it's really great at documenting your code. So if you document your functions or if you need to type something, it's helpful with that too. But I took this screenshot from their website because I think this is really helpful or a good insight to Copilot is that it's a pair programmer. So I always look at Copilot as someone I need to work with, but not be super dependent on because it may make the wrong assumption and it may do something you don't want at all. So it's good to know how it works and how you can potentially lean on it to have it help you. But I definitely wouldn't have Copilot write all the code for me. Another big one is ChatGPT. And I've been seeing ChatGPT everywhere. I think even on TikTok recently. And it's a really good informational resource. I think it is so cool that it understands code and can write code. But like Copilot, you kind of need to fact check it, work with it, and see if what it's giving you would actually make sense in the scenario that you're going to use it in. And then one that I was really, I thought was really cool, and I know I've mentioned Playwright a couple times in this talk, and it's probably because it's very top of mind for me. But I recently discovered the code gen that Playwright does. And so it'll generate code. It generates tests for you based on a URL that you give it. So you can just try this out. You can go in, you can put in your website. So if you were to put in the Microsoft Student Ambassadors website and then start to click through and interact with the website, and then will write out the tests following your behavior. And when I first did this, again, I almost fell out of my chair. I thought it was so cool. You can then take those tests and you can tweak them, you can add to them. I thought it was a really neat way to have a solid test foundation in a quicker way. But it was also just a really good learning experience. So by just clicking through the website and reading through those tests, I understood how the library worked a lot quicker, which I thought was really cool. And that is pretty much all that I have for you all today. I think the key takeaway in my career has been that it's a continuous journey of learning and improving or refactoring. And I think that's only going to stay true as we enter into this world of AI and continue to code alongside all of the AI that comes out with us today. I'm happy to take any questions. I can check the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, we have some great questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Allie. Your talk was really, really inspiring, and I loved how you used the term refactor to describe your career and how you're continually growing and learning and making your career better, which is exactly why everyone is here today. So thank you for that. One of the questions that came up a bit was, which coding boot camp did you do when you were transitioning into that tech role?
Yeah, so I did a coding boot camp out of Detroit, Michigan. It was Grand Circus, and it was actually it was a Facebook boot camp, and so it focused on React. But it was 3 months, and it was primarily front-end focused.
Awesome. Sweet. And another question is, what advice would you have for someone who's wanting to transition from a non-tech degree or a non-tech background into the tech space?
Oh, I love this question. I would say just do it. I think if it's something that you want to do, I've learned recently that everything is figure outable. So I think if there's something you want to do, we have the internet at our fingertips. There's courses out there. There's boot camps. There's a lot to learn, but I think you can do it 100% if you want to do it.
Love it. We also got another question about your onboarding experience at Microsoft. So how was that experience? And is there anything that people should focus on as they're onboarding to a new role in tech to get the most out of that experience?
Yes, yeah, that's a really good question. So my onboarding experience, it was really good here at Microsoft. It's funny joining a new job totally remote. So you're meeting all of these new people, but you still haven't really left your home office at the end of the day. But Microsoft was really great at giving us the time to learn the code base, to learn kind of the Microsoft lingo. And as I've switched jobs as a software engineer, I've kind of learned that it's going to take a little bit to ramp up with that code base. And I've also switched programming languages. So sometimes you just have to give yourself grace that it's a new language. And even though it's a new language, at the end of the day, you still get the idea of programming and you can still understand the structure. So just give yourself grace with the time to catch up and to learn how the application works.
Love it. All right, we'll ask one more question. Also, just lots of love for your term. Everything is figure outable. Love that in the chat. So love that phrase. Last question is, how do you have fun while working with these technologies or integrating fun into your work life?
Oh, that's good too. Honestly, stuff changes so fast that for me, learning something new is pretty fun. And I think one of the reasons why I brought up that testing library so much was just seeing that code generation was like mind blowing to me. I've always like read documentation and, started to write tests out one by one to try and figure out how a new testing library works. And when it just started to do it for me as I moved, I thought that was so cool. So just trying out new technologies and seeing what's out there, I think is what keeps it fun.
Awesome. Sweet. Thank you, Allie.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty.
Great. I love the phrase giving yourself grace because it's so easy to beat yourself up for not having it or not getting it immediately. And so that's a really great thing to remember, I guess, from this. So thank you, Allie. Next thing we're going to move towards is a quick talk from Aberlina and Sarah Gibbons on app development and developer tools.
Well, you can create and deploy your own website for free. Even if you're new to HTML and CSS, you can go from idea to code to live site in minutes using VS Code, Copilot, and Azure. Abril, I have my GitHub and Azure accounts, and I love coffee. Where do we start?
So this is our HTML file, and here is also our CSS file, and here is how it actually looks like right now. So what we are going to do is to ask Copilot to help us to include Bootstrap and UIKit. I'll return and ask Copilot with more help in other things. So here are the other things that Copilot helped me to do here on the HTML file and also here on the CSS file. So let's deploy it. Right after we submitted our changes to GitHub and downloaded the extension of Azure and Azure Study Web Apps, we have to sign in with our Azure for Students account. So after that, we create the Azure Study Web Apps with this name. We select the region. I'll select custom. I'll leave it like this, and I'll change it to this. And so we will wait a few minutes just to confirm that everything is created. We click on Azure for Students, Study Web Apps, browse our website, and here is the final result. Try GitHub Copilot now and take your coding game to the next level. Sign up for our Cloud Skills Challenge and attend follow-up sessions at the Reactor to learn more.
Awesome. That was so cool. All right. So now we're going to switch over to Menti to ask a few more questions about the talk in the video that you just saw. Alrighty. So first question, what are your biggest takeaways from this career story about application development and developer tools? And as you're filling that out, the answers will pop up on the screen. We'll kind of chat through some of them. So
also go to the chat if you need the link with the code again. They're pinned in the, or it's not pinned, but I guess it's one of the most recent comments in the chat.
Awesome.
Oh, now it's pinned. There you go.
What?
That is like wild that you're able to like make a website and I think like a 30-second, it's crazy.
Yeah. Come so far.
I know.
Okay, answers are coming in. Love to see that. Okay, what do we got? Well, they were coming in.
Yeah.
They disappeared. Okay, lots of different career opportunities. Build, learn, rebuild. Love that. Never too late to start coding. Yes, you're never too old to start doing what you want to do. What else do we got here? Anything sticking out to you, Bren?
Anyone can start their career in an unorthodox way. You do not have to have a degree or like formally study computer science or something adjacent. Like even with that Copilot video we just watched, like you don't have to know anything about coding or VS Code and you can make a website.
Love that. Love the Allie did not brute force her way through life. That's great. Being very intentional to take the time to know what you want to do and what's going to bring you the most joy and fulfillment. I think that's really cool. And then that refactoring to continually grow. That's awesome. Love that insight.
Looking towards external resources too. We talked about like Udemy or Coursera or Codecademy. Like those are all like at your fingertips to like further your learning or answer your questions on whatever like language or skill you're trying to learn.
Love it. Yeah, I think Allie's example of her career progression is really inspiring to a lot of people who, you know, are wanting to transition into tech. And so really cool to see that. Thanks again, Allie.
And it's scary too to switch from something you like don't know, especially into tech, because it feels intimidating if you like are just joining in.
Absolutely. But it's possible, as Allie has proved it to be so. Cool. Lots of love for some developer tools. Using OpenAI and APIs to add features. Yeah, that stuff is wild. The Copilot, GitHub, incredible.
And they just released the new one too, where it can help you like with creating docs and like documentation for your code, which to some people may seem tedious and not very exciting as like the programming process. So that's super awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so excited for the next talk about AI, but just the way that AI allows you to augment your capabilities instead of automating it to take out all of those like tedious, boring things so you can
I
focus on the
know.
exciting things. I think that's so incredible.
Great. We're going to move on to our next speaker now.
All right.
Awesome. I'm excited to announce Rizel Scarlett, known as Black Girl Bites. She is going to talk to us about her career in AI, and she's a developer advocate for GitHub.
Hey y'all. Thank you. Cool. All right, I'm going to quickly switch over my tab since y'all can hear me. But hi everyone, my name is Rizel Scarlett and I'm a developer advocate at GitHub. I particularly focus in artificial intelligence, as everyone has mentioned. Before that, I was a software engineer for 3 years, and I'm currently an advisor, and I was a director at an organization called G Code, which introduces women of color and non-binary people of color to code. So as you can see, I'm really passionate about educating others and empowering others through technology. One thing I want y'all to take away from this entire conversation and the entire Microsoft Student Summit is you don't have to be in the same job forever. Your career can and will evolve. I think sometimes when we go to college and we're like 18 years old, it feels like we got to pick the same job and stick with it for the rest of our lives, but that's really not the case. So just to explain to y'all what a developer advocate is for folks who may not be familiar, I essentially have like two primary duties, and one is on the company side. I want to understand developers or our users about our products, and I do that by gathering feedback. That might be through like just scrolling on Twitter and seeing what is the general sentiment of people feel about different GitHub products, or that might be making connections at conferences and chatting with other developers and learning more about how they think and feel. And then on the other side, I help developers understand how to use our company's products. By creating blog posts and conference talks and videos and sample applications. So like you saw GitHub Copilot being demoed a little bit earlier, maybe I'll do a blog post on how to best get or how to most get the best out of GitHub Copilot. In terms of artificial intelligence, my focus, again, is mostly on GitHub Copilot. Luckily, fortunately for me, Allie just explained what GitHub Copilot was, but I'll do a little bit more. It's essentially an AI peer programmer that helps you write code faster with less work. I like to compare it to the Smart Compose feature within Gmail. Sometimes when you're typing an email, there's that predictive text that starts to finish what it thinks you're going to say. GitHub Copilot acts a similar way, but with code. And what it's doing is it's drawing context from your comments and your code within the particular tabs that you have open in your editor, and it starts suggesting individual lines and whole functions as you type. It's pretty cool, as y'all saw. A lot of times as well, I try to break down to people that artificial intelligence is not magic. To some developers and to some technologists and some non-technologists, this rise of artificial intelligence feels scary because any change in technology can scare people and can feel scary. But I try to tell people it's not magical. It does feel magical, but it's just an algorithm that's happening. Basically, behind the scenes, GitHub Copilot is using a tool called OpenAI Codex. And that is a machine learning model that was trained on public code. And what it can do is it translates natural language into code. I also try to remind people to build with AI responsibly. We want to make sure we're creating tools that empower individuals in society rather than hurt them. And again, one thing I love about my job is that I get to help others. That's like something I've always been passionate about. I get a lot of satisfaction and enjoyment when I hear someone say, like, you've helped me. And a lot of my job and the way that I help people is sharing what I learn as I learn it. So I'm not an expert on AI. I'm still fairly new to the whole scene. And as I learn things, I'll blog about it, or I'll Twitch stream myself, build with it, or I'll go to a conference and talk about what I learned with it. And it does feel vulnerable because sometimes I'm like, maybe there are experts in the room, and people might say, that's not so right. But what I love about it is when people come back to me and they say, hey, you know what? That actually really helped me. I was nervous to ask people for clarification on this, and you gave me a lot of clarity. Here's an example in the screenshot where I wrote a blog post about containers and understanding the whole concept of containerization. And someone commented that I was really struggling with the whole containerization concept, and this article helped me. I acknowledge that coding is hard. It can be hard, even though sometimes folks want to pretend it isn't. It is, and I love making it easier for folks of all backgrounds to navigate this industry. One cool thing about GitHub Copilot that I want to highlight and that I enjoy the most about GitHub Copilot is that we have the ability to use it with your voice. It's called Copilot Voice, and we recently announced it, and I got to talk about it at a keynote in GitHub Universe. Basically, what it does is it lets you to code with your voice. You essentially give a command, and GitHub Copilot will write it out for you. This is particularly helpful for people who have accessibility issues or disability issues. If you might have visual impairment or physical dexterity where you might not be able to use your hands that day, maybe you have carpal tunnel, whatever, it's a big game changer for folks. And I love it, and I'm really excited about it. I also more selfishly love challenging myself. In addition to me loving helping people, being a developer advocate and getting to explore AI has been a great way to challenge myself. I'm getting to explore new technologies, and I'm getting forced out of my comfort zone in a good way. I used to be really, really scared of public speaking, where when I spoke, my voice would get really shaky no matter how much I would try for it to not get shaky. And the more I would try, all of a sudden I would start crying. But now I feel empowered by public speaking. I can go speak in front of a large stage, and although I'll be scared at first, I start to mellow out and get a chance to connect with the audience. And I also, because I get this platform to be able to speak on stages and do blog posts, I think it gives me a voice that can have an impact on the future of technology. And talking about the future of technology, here's my thoughts on the future of AI. Like people mentioned, I believe that AI tools like ChatGPT and Copilot will change the way that we code. It'll help us to focus more on creativity and logic and way less on syntax. In addition to that, it'll reduce barriers for folks that are interested in joining the industry because like you saw, you can communicate or have an AI peer programmer, someone who's non-judgmental to brainstorm what you're going to do with your code. And then also it'll reduce barriers for folks with disabilities as well. Here's a day in my life. It's hard to describe because every day I'm not necessarily doing the same thing, but I tried to capture what one day might look like from time to time. Like one day I might be traveling and then speaking at a conference. Another day I might decide, you know what, I'm going to write a blog post and do a Twitch stream and tweet a little bit. Some days might be just full of meetings with product managers and planning content for upcoming releases, or sometimes I might write some code for a demo application so people can use that as an example. And my journey through tech was it wasn't a straight line, right? So I dropped out of college because of financial issues, and also at the time I was undocumented. Then after that, I decided I want to get some money. I need to figure out how to get some money so that I can continue my life. So I became a phlebotomist, and that's someone that draws blood from people. But I ended up not really enjoying that experience. So I started looking up things about tech, and I became a help desk technician. I liked that, but I wanted more of a challenge. So I signed up for a coding boot camp. It was a free coding boot camp called Resilient Coders. After that, I became a software engineer. And after that, I realized I liked educating and talking about code more than I just like purely coding. So I became a developer advocate. I did experience a lot of imposter syndrome throughout my career, and there were developers who often put me down. Like I remember telling someone, I want to be a developer advocate. And they're like, oh, I think you have to be like a good software engineer for that. And I was like, oh, okay? But I didn't let them put me down. And what I did was, and my advice to y'all is go ahead and look at other people's journeys. I look at people's journeys on LinkedIn a lot, and I'm just like, how did they move from one spot to the other? And I just encourage y'all to stay curious, say yes to different opportunities, even if they scare you, and continue to practice learning in public. If you want to get into AI, I would say the lowest hanging fruit is to start by using it and building with it. Try out GitHub Copilot and OpenAI's APIs today. And again, just want to emphasize staying curious, even if there are naysayers, you are the owner of your path, and continue to pivot your career strategically. That's all.
Great. Thank you so much, Rizel. We're going to do some Q&A now. So one of the first questions we got was, we're doing, okay, cool. Q&A first. What sort of work did you do at G-Code before you got into being a developer advocate?
Yeah, at G-Code, well, that was at the same time as I was a software engineer. Essentially, it was like a new nonprofit. So I helped to like build the curriculum, find instructors, and recruit essentially almost everything.
Awesome. I love the way that most of the chat is like a fan club for you. I also have heard so much about you from other people, and you're amazing.
Thanks, y'all.
Next question is, how do you think ChatGPT will affect jobs and more specifically the job market?
Yes, I do think it's a valid concern that some jobs may change. And I think, yes, they will change, but I think that what we need to do as individuals is learn to pivot with that change, learn to use AI and ChatGPT to elevate our careers rather than make them disappear, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. I'm a very big advocate for responsible code and like increasing diversity and representation in computer science. And you had mentioned creating responsible AI. So one of the questions we had was what can we do to build responsible code and programs?
That's a good question. I think getting educated on what like responsible AI looks like. You know, there's talks on YouTube and stuff like that. There's somebody named and I hope I say her name right. Sorry, but her name is Timnit Gebru. I think I don't know. Yeah, she talks a lot about that. And I think continuing to learn from those folks on what responsible AI means is super helpful. And yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've her stuff is amazing. Super cool. And she has a great story too. So if you need to go, like, if you want to go read stories, read hers. Let's see, is there any other questions that were directed towards?
Yeah, I saw a really good one. Rizel, as a person of color, do you feel like your identity affected your imposter syndrome? Like how people viewed you? What was your experience with that in the tech industry?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I actually think that a lot of times, because I am a young Black woman in tech, it was maybe less imposter syndrome and more people just telling me that they didn't think I could do it. And then it made me be like, oh no, I can't do it. But, you know, to me, those you gotta block those people out and surround yourself with communities of people that encourage you and want to lift you up.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, so if we don't have any other questions that are specifically pointed towards your talk, we will move on to the next speaker. And thank you so much, Rizel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rizel. Alrighty, yes, that was awesome. Again, another great example of a nonlinear career path. I think someone mentioned this in the chat, but nonlinear career paths are really a gift for the future teams that you join because you have such different perspective to bring to the table. So don't let that deter you. It really is a gift to any future teams that you join. So you are absolutely an asset. Now we're going to jump to an awesome video to learn a little bit more about AI, data science, and machine learning from Bethany. So roll the clip.
world of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science is growing quickly, and Microsoft is empowering each and every person to be involved. No man left behind, right? For example, using Azure Cognitive Services, you have access to different AI capabilities, such as image recognition, text translation, speech to text, and all this without writing a single line of code. In comes Azure OpenAI service, which makes it more interesting through the power of generative AI, where you can now address deeper challenges such as language barriers. Let me show you a virtual assistant chatbot built with Azure OpenAI services and Azure Speech Services. The bot understands various languages and replies to prompts. For example, what is the weather in Nairobi? Now, once you click the AI, it will give us a response and also say it out loud.
The current weather in Nairobi is partly cloudy with a temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, 75 degrees Fahrenheit.
The greatest thing about this demo is you can actually say out loud what you want and it will reply back to you. So let's test it in a different language. Hali ya hewa jijini Nairobi EVP wakati huu. And then it will, once I click on the AI, it will give me a response.
Hali ya hewa jijini Nairobi sasa ni nyepesi na kiwango cha hewa ni 24 nyuzi Celsiasi 75.
How exciting was that? This project was built by Cyrus Wong, an educator from Hong Kong, to help understand and answer all students' questions regardless of their local languages. What challenges are there in your communities that you can tackle with AI? To learn more about the different AI capabilities, join us for our live reactor sessions and the Cloud Skills Challenge.
Great. We're going to jump over to Menti again and talk about that. So the question here that we're going to talk about is, what is your biggest takeaway from this career story about AI, machine learning, and data science? And the code is also in the chat.
Awesome. I'm going to say, while we're waiting, Brenna, what was your biggest takeaway?
Oof. I think the biggest thing to remember, I guess, from that one was how can we use AI and machine learning to tackle everyday problems, because like we've kind of learned from all these other speakers is that you can use it for anything and it doesn't have to be like a very specific like CS related question. We talked in this last video about how you can use it for weather. So a great way to build your programmer mindset or the programmer mindset would to see every other day, everyday tasks and figure out in your head, how could you tackle that with using AI?
I love that answer.
What about you?
For me, I really liked the point that Rizel made about how AI can feel scary, but it's really just a new way of doing things. I think similar to how we used to hand wash dishes and now we have a dishwasher, AI is just a way to augment and increase our capabilities to give us more time back, which I think is really exciting. And so really cool to see all the examples that Rizel talked about.
Yeah, I think also my favorite thing that Rizel had mentioned was, like I said, talking about responsible code. So as you learn about machine learning and AI and ChatGPT and all that, along in a parallel track, learning how can we use that for good and what are the inherent bias and drawbacks to this, because as it accelerates, it kind of also builds upon those flaws in the system. So being aware of them is very important. But let's look at the chat. Let's see here.
I love the switching to a software engineer career with AI path does not look tough now. That's great. That was one of the things that Rizel said, that AI will reduce barriers to entry for tech. And I think that's incredible to get more people into this space.
AI should not be treated as a threat to career communities, but as an enhancement and tool and friend, which is very much true. Confidence is a nonlinear career path. Agreed.
I think we get some similar themes here from Allie and Rizel's talk, which is really cool to see. Nonlinear career, never too old to learn. Sky is the limit. Love that.
Very easy to use, which is a good thing. It's easy to get into and it's accessible.
I hope AI takes over maths. That's really funny. Probably still gonna have to do long division.
Yeah, hopefully not. Importance of the tools. I like the way that everyone is learning to shift their mindset towards AI programming from a job threat to like how can we adapt this and like utilize it into our everyday lives is a good shift of mindset.
I love that. Yeah, I saw a comment from someone the other day about, AI is not going to replace jobs. It's going to replace people who learn how to use AI are the ones that are going to replace people's jobs. So if you want to make sure that you're on the top of the job market, pick up these new technologies because that's an incredible skill that will just bump you up onto the top of the list.
I also love the way that Rizel kind of went over how do you get started in using AI, because I think artificial intelligence is such like a buzzword that as soon as you hear it, it's like a black box in your mind of like it's magic. But she did a really good job of talking like how do you get started with it? How do you learn more so you can be able to stay on top of that and learn to integrate it?
Totally.
Cool. Writing machine learning code, using OpenAI on projects. Not super excited about using Azure Computer Vision for image recognition. Oh, we got some people. Speech and language. What's great is that you can find more information about all this stuff. Even the stuff that you're not super excited to learn about, it's all in that post-summit link. It's got workshops to using all of these different tools and resources. So we encourage you to go check that out afterwards and experiment with the stuff. Awesome. Everyone's excited to use OpenAI on projects. I am too. And there's that link that we mentioned. Cool.
Awesome. All righty. So we're going to jump into our last speaker. I'm so excited to introduce you all to Laura Rogers, who is the owner and IW mentor at Microsoft MVP. She's going to talk a little bit about her career in low code, no code. So Laura, handing it off to you.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here. Some of your stories have been so inspiring. It's great to hear them. I'm Laura Rogers. I've been a Microsoft MVP for 12 years. I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm the founder of my own IW Mentor. It's my own training company and consulting company. I'm actually from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I went to LSU. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how exciting it's been working with these no-code technologies over the years and how fun my job is. I've even created a free Power Apps Basics course that you can take that I'll be sharing the link with you. All right, so what is no-code? It means that you don't have to learn a programming language. You do need to be able to understand logic and concepts like forms, databases, variables, conditional rules, but just not an actual language. So with Power Apps, it's more like using a spreadsheet and writing functions similar to what you might have used in Excel. So here's, these are a few examples of some Power Apps. So this is all a no code, just WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get sort of interface to design these apps. And you can see there are a few examples. There are a lot of different industries and different reasons you could use these Power Apps. And then you have the other big product that I use in my job is Power Automate. So with Power Automate, you have what's called flows and they're workflows. So this is an example of a flow where you have a trigger and then you have the flow does something. So someone creates an item in a database or a table or a list, and then that elicits this flow to start doing things like sending emails, creating other items, assigning tasks to people, whatever you need it to do. So also, I didn't get a degree in computers, so it's been kind of fascinating hearing some of your other stories about changing careers and different careers. And I didn't get a degree in computers. And think about it. Back in 1995, when I graduated from college, none of this even existed. The internet was pretty new back then. So, the cloud, there was no such thing. And so, yeah, I got into it later on. Now, why did I get into no-code development? Here are just a few examples of some of my videos I've created. In my job in healthcare, at a healthcare company about 20 years ago, SharePoint was new. And I discovered that I loved building pages, forms, and workflows, just all with these no-code technologies. There were different technologies back then. Power Apps and Power Automate didn't exist. But basically, I found some forums online, and I started answering questions. And so then I would mock things up and figure them out based on people's questions, and, in order to answer the questions. And that's how I got started with my blog. So I would see common questions, and it was just more efficient to write blog posts about it and send people the link because they were so common, and then found out that was pretty helpful. And then later on, I got started making video demos too. I also wrote chapters in a few books here and there, like SharePoint books and a few different SharePoint books. The thing is, the technology changes so fast now. I don't write books anymore because by the time the book published, it would be out of date. So let's see. Let me go into my. So fast forward to today. I love Power Apps and Power Automate so much that I started my own company so I can teach these technologies and do consulting projects. I speak at conferences all over the world, and I have 20,000 followers on YouTube and Twitter. And it's been an adventure getting to travel the world speaking at tech conferences about these technologies that I'm so passionate about, and about this low code, no code concept that I'm so passionate about. My favorite fun things to do at work, though, are just my actual day-to-day work is helping customers by building automated business processes. So this means think about any online form that you may fill out and think about the process that it goes through after you submit that form. Someone most likely looks at or aggregates that information, and then there may even be an approval process around that form. Here's an example of a form. So other tasks might need to happen regarding that form. So for example, if you have a company with a new hire form, which could be a Power App, then there are things that need to happen with a new hire, such as getting them a desk, getting them an email address, a phone number. So someone in IT needs to do this, someone in HR needs to do that. And that's where you could be assigning tasks to people as part of your workflow. So the cool thing about this is we work with every industry there is. I mean, who doesn't need forms? We have customers in healthcare, education, manufacturing, government, etc. We get to learn. What's fascinating is we get to learn how they do things in these different industries and how their business processes work, because we are helping them automate their business processes. So think about just one example is like with a construction company, they need to be able to track their tools and track how many tools are in each truck, how much they cost, how much they weigh. And a construction company may have safety forms and incident forms that they might need to fill out. So we created an app for them to be able to have in their trucks to keep track of their tools. And then another really fascinating one, customer of mine is the state of Hawaii. And so we built this legislative tracking app for them, a Power App. And so I got to learn a lot. I know, back in maybe 7th and 8th grade, I learned about history and bills and measures and kind of how that works and how they go in the government. But this was actually real world, and I got kind of a refresher. So I learned about how bills come out, and I had to put this all in the app and how people decide which bills, people in the government decide which bills they're interested in. and they track them and they make comments, they have meetings, then they go to hearings, and then the bills come into fruition. So it was really fascinating getting to learn about kind of what that data looks like, what their process is, and then helping them automate that process. So we've done things with schools, like forms that people might fill out as part of maybe changing their class and changing what courses they're taking, because a lot of these industries, I mean, every industry has Microsoft 365. And so they're, whatever they do in that industry, you have an opportunity to help them build these no-code apps and automate their business processes. So what is the future in this field? So the current technologies that I use mostly right now are Power Apps and Power Automate. But before they came along, there were other no-code products. I used SharePoint Designer back in the day, and a product called InfoPath that I actually wrote a book about. And so, who knows in the future what different technologies there may be for kind of some of this business process stuff that I do. But as long as you can understand these logic concepts, and you'll be able to pick up and work with these, think about 20 years from now, who knows what the products are going to be, but your skills and the logic and just being able to understand these concepts are going to carry across over the years. Like with the way AI is going, a lot of the formulas and functions in my apps that I build will be able to write themselves, which will make my job, more efficient and quicker. There's already inside of Power Apps, there's already a little ideas sort of panel that pops up. So if you're trying to write a formula or trying to accomplish something, it will actually, say, hey, type a sentence and tell us what you're trying to do. And it will help you by generating a formula for you to kind of get you started. So things like that are creeping in more and more into at least the things that I see day to day. And also, think about, we're talking about all these different technologies over the years. Think about it. The thing that you end up doing as a profession may not even exist yet. So like I said, none of this existed yet when I was, 18, 20. So it's, sky's the limit. We'll see what's going to happen. It's been so much fun talking about no-code development to you. Please check out my free Power Apps Basics course. I think I shared a link with you all. And also this weekend just happens to be, I'm doing a free Power Apps weekend. So my website is iwmentor.com. And I hope you check out Power Apps and check out these Power Platform technologies and consider being a no-code dev like me. Thanks. Here's my contact information.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. I know a lot of us were really excited to learn about this space, and so you delivered that wonderfully. I really liked the emphasis that you put on the skill of computational thinking or problem solving, being able to take a larger problem and break it down into logical chunks. You don't need to know coding or syntax to be able to do it. And that skill is so transferable, whether you're in a tech career or a career anywhere else, like that's going to carry with you. So I really love that you put the emphasis on that. Everyone throw some questions in the chat for Laura. The first one that we have actually for you, Laura, is what tools helped you shift to a career in tech from a non-tech degree?
Oh, that's Microsoft Access, I would say, would be the biggest one. And that's, it's kind of phasing out. It's still around. But 20 years ago, Microsoft Access was, was kicking. So I really loved it that I could build forms and build tables. And that's what really kind of helped me get my head around. And I would just play with it. I would just try things just for fun in my spare time. Just, that's the main thing that I started with.
I love it. Awesome. Another question would be, what's been the most empowering moment in your career?
When I started realizing, when I started going to these conferences and meeting all my Twitter friends in person, and I started realizing how much my blog has had an impact on people's lives and my videos. And then people will come up to me at conferences. It's so cool. They'll come up to me and tell me that I inspired them in their tech career and that I helped them. Every day they read my blog and it's always got helpful things. So that's really amazing and fun when I get to have those moments.
I love that. The connections to people. That's very cool. Another question we have is, in your opinion, would you say that no-code development is more managerial than developmental?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like I'm in the weeds creating something and developing something when I'm building those apps. So, you know, no, I mean, I think it's more like development.
Cool. I would agree. I would tend to agree. Okay, we have another question of, do you have any tips on how to integrate AI into Power Apps, or is that a capability that already exists?
It does have some AI that exists. It has things like the ability to do something like scan a business card and have the data go straight into the Power App, and it taps into those cognitive services, and they just keep adding more and more. That's the thing about these products. They keep adding things constantly, and you never know. One day you'll wake up and there's a new button in your Power Apps. That makes it fun and challenging having a training company, getting to constantly pay attention to those things and update my training.
Love that. All right, and I'll hit you with the same question that I asked Allie at the beginning as well. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone specifically that's trying to transition into tech from a non-tech background?
I would say in your spare time, Microsoft's got a ton of information on Microsoft Learn. In your spare time, go through all those, as many free videos as you can, but it does help to have maybe even a book or some sort of pedagogy so that you're learning things in order and not necessarily like just kind of random videos here and there to like try to actually take a course or read a book to learn what you're learning.
Love it. The self-starter attitude. No one's going to do it but yourself. Awesome. Bren, do you have any other questions for Laura?
I think that the biggest thing I took away from your talk is that at the beginning, a lot of us were confused on, or not confused, still didn't know what low code or no code meant. But I was realizing throughout that, I think that we all use low code and no code technology in our everyday today life, whether or not that's using things like Excel, where that really is utilizing software development, but through no code or low code technologies. I use Power BI for data visualization almost every day, and often use things from like using Power Apps from a form to automatically visualize that in those tools. And that's all using low code, no code. So it's a really important thing, and it is very much still a like software development strategy and like tool set. And I recommend checking out things like Power BI if you're interested in getting into data visualization. And they also have machine learning and AI implementations or like integrations into that. And somebody mentioned Tableau. Those are all really big like tools that your entire day-to-day like work life may revolve around, but are still considered low-code options. So great
Absolutely.
talk. Thank you so much.
It's a lot of fun.
And go check out her tutorial and course this weekend if you would like to learn more about those. Awesome. Next up, we're going to watch another snapshot, and this is going to expand on low code and no code development. This is from Somalis, and he is a Microsoft cloud advocate for the academic, for Microsoft Academic. So take it away.
You've learned about low-code development. Let's explore something that you can do with Microsoft Power Platform with Power Automate and ChatGPT technology. It's a simple one, where students who are part of a community or club or professionals in a company receive a newsletter update weekly on the most trending technology topic, which could be AI, Power Platform, or .NET. A marketing team captures the week's topic to be included in the newsletter using an adaptive card. Then a Power Automate flow receives the input and uses ChatGPT 3 to extract the entities from the text. The extracted entities are sent to search tweets about the specific topic, Then ChatGPT 3 generates a newsletter using the top 10 trend tweets. An email is sent to students or developer groups with the newsletter to stay up to date with the latest changes from their respective technology. I chose this simple demo because I was playing with OpenAI and because at my previous workplace, they were looking for ways to generate news about what's new and happening with Power Platform to catch up and not miss any features. You saw how cool it was to actually just build a solution using Power Platform with GPT technology. So if you want to learn more, you can actually complete the Cloud Skills Challenge we have for the Student Summit and join more of our follow-up sessions at the reactors.
Awesome. That was so cool. Again, don't forget to check out the Cloud Skills Challenges if you want to learn more about these awesome skills. We're going to jump over to Menti to wrap us up with some questions. The first question is, what was your biggest takeaway from this career story about low code, no code?
Hadley, you want to answer this?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to throw that one back to me. I think I really liked Allie's point about, Laura's point about how the thing that you may be doing in your career might not exist yet. I had never actually internalized that. Like, I think I knew that that was a possibility, but the fact that we are creating the future right now and that there are things that might not even exist today. And so the sky really is the limit. And I think that's really cool to recognize that there's still so much more that we can achieve and so much we've come so far and so much more that we can still travel. So I think that's really cool. What about you?
Absolutely. I think that I kind of mentioned it when we were talking to Laura, but a lot of the times we're using these tools already and just don't realize that they're considered, like, we've integrated them and become so familiar with them that we forget that there is so much like logic that goes on behind it, that it is super complex on the back end, but these like low code options have made it super accessible to people that may not have like a super CS forward lifestyle. And so it's been super cool to be able to like experiment and learn with those. And you can use them for anything, not even CS related. I think my friends and I were playing around with data visualization dashboards. And so we made a form that reviewed pizza and we were filling it out. And then we had a Power Apps automation set up so that it would automatically like in live time show like what was our favorite toppings and everything. So you can use these things to quickly create like super complex visualizations or tools that tell a story. And I think that's super cool.
Oh my gosh, I love that example. That's such a fun.
You can use it for anything, I guess.
Way, yeah. Curious to hear if anyone else has fun stories of using Power Apps to do something like analyze pizza. That's so cool. Awesome. All right, we got some answers flowing in here. Let's see what we got.
I like the way that somebody described that low code, no code is the missing part of technology innovation. And once we like can integrate that into our tool set, like it opens up to like a whole bunch of, it like is a whole bunch of different like solutions to problems.
Yeah, lots of low barrier to entry. Mm-hmm. These opportunities are for everyone, which is super exciting. Yeah, so many people also had the same realization as you, Brenna. It looks like of, hey, we use this all the time and we just didn't even really realize it. Everything is code. Love that. Bunch of zeros and ones. I like that, the point about great to have for fast deployment of apps. I think that's very true, that it can increase the speed to production, but you know, there still might be some coding that needs to take place, but it gets you most of the way there, which is really exciting.
I like the way also that I think a lot of people, we didn't know what low code, no code meant, but now we have like a label for things we already use. So now we can know and learn how to further build on those skills, whether it is by taking courses like Laura offers or just going out and reading more information or articles or tutorials on it. we're already familiar with using those tools, but now we can learn how to build upon them and like really like utilize them for what we do.
Love it. Change is the only constant. That's so true. Love it. Awesome. All right, now we want to hear a little bit more about what you're most excited to learn more about. Oh, some others.
Yeah.
Look at the chat here as well. Let's see, we got a lot for integrating OpenAI solutions with Power Platforms. That was one of the questions that we asked too, so that's great.
Yeah. Solving business problems with Power Apps and Excel.
Totally. Yeah, and to combine the two of solving the business problems with the integration of OpenAI, like you can imagine the possibility of being able to combine the natural language commands or natural language similar to GitHub or Copilot into things like Excel. So not having to know all of the different commands and formatting things to know, you can just use natural language to say, hey, I need all of the numbers that are greater than 100 to be highlighted, and it can do it for you, which is mind-blowing. Very cool. Endless possibilities here for sure.
Yeah. Streamline workflows. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Alrighty, so we're actually going to jump back to Menti and do some wrap-up questions here, a little back and forth, just to get some overall thoughts and comments from you all about this entire event, and to hear from you.
Great. So how much did you feel like you learned today about careers in tech and tech in these areas? A lot about machine learning and AI. I feel like I thought I knew a lot about like the status quo of machine learning and AI, but I learned so much today about it and where it's headed.
Yes, same. Lots of high ratings for everything. It's really cool to see just lots of learning across the board. Awesome. Check the chat here real quick. Lots of learnings. Cool. This next question, similar to ones we've seen before, what are you most interested in learning more about, more broadly?
Yeah, machine learning.
Hot topic, right? We said that at the beginning. Very exciting to see.
If you have a Reactor or Microsoft Reactor location in your area, like we mentioned at the summit link, see if there's any events being hosted there, because they host events about everything ever that are usually free. And they're just workshops where you can go and like learn with other people who are interested. I've attended a bunch on open source programming, and I didn't have very much experience going into that. And they walked through like the very basics up into how to find programs. So they might have some on machine learning and like how to get involved with that more. So great way to learn more.
Yeah, and for the 22 of you that said you wanted to learn more about app development, there's an awesome workshop next week on Wednesday. You can find it on the Reactor site about M365 app development. So check that out.
I like there's a little bit of a lag with Menti, and so it all like
it comes in all at once. Let's see. Oh, love the high excitement for networking with other students. That's great. The people connections are really what makes a career so fulfilling. So I love that there's lots of excitement in that space.
Hadley, do you have any recommendations or advice for networking, or how do you build those connections?
Yeah, that's a great question. Personally, my relationship with networking, I originally thought that networking was this kind of like growth thing that you were trying to, you know, connect with someone else to get further in your career. But as I've networked more, I've started to learn that I don't want to treat those situations as like a one-way street. I want to treat those as I'm building a friendship. And that's really all it is you're just building friendships and connections with people. And it's less of a transactional relationship and more of this two-way street of, you know, I'm curious to hear about your experience and let me share with you anything that I have. Like, let me connect you with other people and this mutually beneficial relationship. So I always say, collect business friends, not business cards. So that's my motto for networking. What about you?
I think that's a pretty solid piece of advice. I think finding things that you're mutually excited about and like passionate about, and then just try to learn from the other person. I agree that it's kind of got some weird stigma of like just trying to be like, make it super transactional, but really just trying to absorb as much information and like be genuinely excited to interact and like get to know the other person and like learn from their experiences.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Alrighty. Oh, I like this question. Describe your experience in one word. Some answers rolling in.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not the word AI. But it might be.
Maybe. My word is so basic, but inspiring really is it for me, or maybe eye-opening, I think would be more so. Just to see the different career paths and everything that's out there, I think has been really cool for me personally.
I think I really liked Allie's buzzword, or not buzzword, but like word refactor. I think that I've learned so much from all the different speakers about how it's not a super straightforward or super linear path from like traditionally you go to university, you get your CS degree, and then you work someplace like super big tech. It's kind of a conglomerate of different experiences and different things you've learned from people. And maybe that path does not result in you being in like tech or like a traditional software development role. You might also find that it's not for you, or you might come from a different path and decide that you like technology.
Yeah, there's so many different roles in tech that don't require coding. So if that's not your thing, no worries. Yeah. Personally, it wasn't my thing. Yeah, exactly. I had the degree in computer science, but then realized that product management was a better fit for me. So there's so many different careers in this space.
I was super turned away from it originally because I was like, I'm bad at math, so surely I can't be a computer scientist. But also ChatGPT, I guess, has been a wild like factor into that. But we're seeing informative has been a really big word. Awesome, amazing, amazed, educational, interactive. That's a good one.
Love it. Yeah.
You can do this, but all is one word. I like that.
Yeah, kind of figure outable. Same kind of vibe as that. Yeah. Love it. All righty. Do we have other questions in Menti? Let's see here. I think that might be
great.
Might be it. Awesome. Cool. Well, we are going to wrap up here. As a reminder, from this link, you can find out all about our different offerings in the program. So Microsoft Learn, where you can complete those cloud skills challenges, as we talked about before. Azure for Students, Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors Program. Shout out to all the ambassadors out there. I used to be an ambassador, so much love to you all. And you can get certified and so much more. So definitely check out this link. As we mentioned before, this event is just a moment in time, but the learning does not stop here. We're all constantly refactoring. And yeah, we hope you got as much out of this conference as Brenna and I did. And thank you again to all the wonderful speakers and to all the wonderful participation in the chat. The comments have been incredible. The answers on Menti have been incredible. And we really appreciate you being here.
And I guess to build off of that, go back to the website that it was originally hosted on. Go look at the speaker bios. We got to do a brief introduction of them, but that's how you can find out more about them and follow their journey, and hopefully build like mentorships later on down the road if you're trying to learn more from them, and connect with Hadley and I too, stay up to date.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for attending, and we'll see you guys at the next summit.
Bye, everyone.